Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Last First Date Radio, featuring interviews with experts in dating, relating, and mating in midlife. And now, here's your host, Sandy Weiner.
Hello, everybody. This is Sandy Weiner, and I am the founder of lastfirstdate.com. I am a dating coach for women over 40. I'm also a communications expert and a relationship expert. And I want to thank you for joining us here today. Last First Date Radio is a show about achieving healthy, off-the-charts love in the second half of life. We have a fabulous show coming up for you today. I'm going to be speaking with author Karan Bajaj about how long-term sabbaticals can spark tremendous growth in a relationship. As a dating coach, I specialize in helping women date as the high-value women that they are in every other part of their lives, because when a woman knows her true worth, she attracts her most aligned partner. And most women who come to me are amazing. They're successful. They are really doing amazing work out in the world, and they just struggle with this one thing called relationships. And that's why I created a free guide to help men and women to overcome some of the biggest dating mistakes that we make without even knowing them. And to grab a copy, if you haven't already, just go over to lastfirstdate.com and sign up on my homepage, and you'll get a free guide where I explain the top 3 mistakes that midlife daters make and how you can turn them around and find lasting love. And if you are a single woman over 40, I also invite you to join my Facebook group. It's called Your Last First Date, and it is a fantastic group growing every day. We have about 330 members now, and you can go there and get really positive support from the wonderful members of the group and from me, because I monitor the group very closely. So if you would like to get additional support, just go to Facebook groups and go to Your Last First Date. I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Audible. Audible is a fantastic service. If you haven't tried it yet, you really should. I love to listen to books on tape. They just help you to read more because we are in a busy world. And if you would like to try out Audible, if you've never tried it before, you will get 1 free book and a free month trial of the service. So go to audibletrial.com/lastfirstdate and grab your free book. And now for our guest. His name is Karan Bajaj. Sorry if I'm butchering this name. And he is a #1 best-selling Indian novelist with more than 200,000 copies of his novels in print. Both of his books have been optioned into major films. His first novel, The Yoga of Max's Discontent, is going to be published by Random House on May 3rd. And the book called Siddhartha of Our Generation by the Daily Telegraph was inspired by Karan's 1-year sabbatical traveling from Europe to India by road and learning yoga and meditation in the Himalayas, which is really cool that he took a year off of his corporate job. So I'd like to welcome Karan to our show right now. Hi, Karan.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So tell us a little bit about that sabbatical. It's you went with your wife, correct?
Yes. Now wife, then girlfriend.
Okay.
And
so
yes, yeah.
what inspired you to take a year off?
A lot of different things came together. One was at a broader level, I'm at a 4-1-4 kind of a model that I follow, in which I work for 4 years and then I take a year off. Then I work for 4 years and take a year off. So I've been doing that over the last decade. And I've basically found that time to be like in the 4 years that I'm working, I'm very goal-driven and work very hard and with a lot of discipline. But in this year, I'm goal-less and drift a little, and I think I've found that the balance of tightness and slackness is leading to a lot of excellence in various aspects of my life, be it my writing or my job. So I've kind of tried to systemize that. And with each year that we take off, we in between these 4-year periods, we have a little bit of an intention, but we don't have a very clear plan. So in this year, our intention was to learn to stop dabbling in yoga and meditation, because we've been dabbling for many years, but to really kind of get a deep dive by living in an ashram and learning it. And then the other thrust was to try to become more creative by making decisions out of more intuition and spontaneity. And part of that decision was that when we would go to India, we would go by road from Europe to India and not have a single plan. We would make every plan on the fly. And the whole idea was that we would end up with some more spontaneity in our decision making that way.
So I read your New York Times article about what that year was like, and there were a lot of hardships. I mean, you slept on the forest floor. You slept in bus stops, and it was not easy. And I can't imagine coming from living in a corporate world and a cushy job to completely roughing it. That's quite a big change. So how did you adjust to all the dirt and discomfort?
Actually, Sunny, in some ways, this is a very conscious choice to spend this year typically in a lot of austerity and almost willful poverty, because what I found with that is that you end up deconstructing many notions of identity. And I think that's why I kind of thought that it would be very interesting from a relationship perspective also, that you get very, in a very comfortable environment, you get very attached to your preferences, and I like green juices and I like vegetarian food at a physical level, and then I'm this kind of a person, I'm that kind of a person. You get very fixed in your notion of who you are. And I think the power of this austerity or willful poverty, if you will, is that you decondition all these notions about yourself, because you start to learn very viscerally that if you can survive very comfortably in some form by living on the floor of an ashram for 3-4 months and having cold showers in the mountains in the Himalayas, then you really don't have as many layers of who you are as you think you do. You are quite free in that way. Which so I almost consciously inculcate that every 4 years, because otherwise you get very fixed about yourself and your and this just kind of unpacks you a lot in that way.
Yeah, it's a really interesting concept. I think that people do get very, very fixed. In fact, I married a man who was highly creative, and I thought that our lives would be really creative and really fun, because I'm a creative person also. And it turned out that he was a person who loved routine and didn't like deviating from his routine. And I'm divorced from him now, and I still see when he gets attached to a routine, he just wants to keep doing it. And I'm not like that at all. And so I like relationships where there is something surprising every once in a while, when you mix things up. And I think, I had a guest on once who talked about how to spice up your sex life. And she talked about these little adventures and sort of building adventure into your relationship, where there's that element of surprise, and it's not always the same. So I think there's tremendous value in mixing things up and getting out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. Yeah, because I think being outside the comfort zone, you just deconstruct your own notions of I like this routine, I like that routine. You're just living together in that moment and being very spontaneous together. And I think as a result, you start understanding the other person more three-dimensionally as well. Versus in the comfort of your routine, you just don't understand the full scope of that person, if you will.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I think we often put people in a box. Somebody I was just talking to the other day, and she said, people, without listening to you really carefully and figuring out who you are, they think that you are something. They kind of label you as something because of the elements of who you are. But we're all more than just what's seen on the outside. And it's easy to get into a rut, especially if you have a family and a full-time job, and life can be very routine. I mean, it's hard for a lot of people to break routine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like what you said about the three-dimensional. So yeah, you recommend that all couples take a sabbatical, and so tell us, what are some of the advantages? You mentioned the three-dimensional and being able to see people in a new way. What are some other ways that this could help a couple?
Yeah, and I'll give my own example with my girlfriend and I going on a sabbatical together. We talked a little bit about the three-dimensional way, but I ended up respecting her resilience a lot as we were going from Europe to India by road, and we went through pretty tough circumstances. I think you saw, I just saw how resilient she was, right? And that was almost an eye-opener for me, because in our life in New York, we don't have those tough experiences at all. And then once we were in India, we were living in an ashram. So in India, in an ashram, men and women are separated. So for almost a 3-month period, we didn't have much physical contact apart from like being in yoga together or doing meditation together, but we never had like true physical contact, right? And I don't know, like I think that 3-month break and the ensuing silence as a result, you just kind of like appreciate and understand what your partner brings to your life in a way. So I think all these environments which are tough and difficult and outside your zone help you just like appreciate your partner in many different ways. And then the other thing also is that when you are on the road alone, and that's why I like the benefit of a sabbatical for a relationship. In a sense, you end up taking care of each other, because you're the only two people in the world who know each other for extended periods of time. So there is no third person that you can seek solace from. And I think in that kind of spirit of complete vulnerability with each other, because you can't wear a mask for that entire duration, you'll be in environments where yourself will reveal itself and both of yourselves will reveal itself. And I think that like slipping off all masks from each other, understanding each other's vulnerability, being the only two people in the world, almost your whole world shrinks to the two of you for a period of time, and you're like, in Bulgaria, for instance, for 3 weeks, neither of us knows a soul in Bulgaria, but in places like that. And I think that really, again, all of these things just deepen the relationship in a way that you can never do in a comfortable environment at home.
So this is not just a sabbatical. You're recommending that people take a sabbatical way out of their comfort zone, someplace where they're going to do things that are really different. Because people can take sabbaticals and, go live in luxury somewhere. Do you think they would get a similar benefit?
No, I don't think. No, when I meant a sabbatical, I meant it in context of, when I think of sabbatical, I think of a sabbatical from your mind almost, not a sabbatical in your physical environment. So not a change in the physical environment, but almost a dissolution of your mind, which means that you are just breaking all layers of physical and emotional identity. So I meant like really being outside your zone is how I define a sabbatical. Because otherwise, and we just kind of change your physical location. You're not truly taking a vacation from your mind. And this is really a deconstruction of your mind. So in that context, yes, a sabbatical which has some level of, and it could be tough, is not, I think I've described a lot of physical hardship here, but I meant also, for instance, if you're doing a silent meditation retreat together for a week, right, that's again like a very shared experience that you'll go through, in which both of you will unravel a lot of things about yourself. So again, that's also an example in which it's not physically tough, but it's very mentally and emotionally tough, and you're going through that shared experience together.
So a lot of people would say, I can't take a year off. That's too much. So you mentioned a week off. Would that give you a similar benefit if you did that every once in a while in your relationship?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I know an entrepreneur who's extremely busy, can't take a year off, but is doing a 7-1-7 model in which he works for 7 weeks, takes a week off, and then does 7 weeks and takes a week off. And he's found the practice so beneficial for his work and his life that he's made it now a mandate for his 10-employee company that everybody does that. So I think a lot of people are discovering the benefits of this, the tightness, and then suddenly having the slack, if you will. So so I think that week of like silence, reduction of noise, and also some, as I said, some activity that dissolves your kind of existing state, and that could be meditation, or it could be a creation vacation in which you both are creating something other than like, so like if you've never written, you're writing, or you're like creating art, or you're doing some kind of a creation. That also I would count as the same, because again it's dissolving an old habit pattern and replacing it with the new, and I think that opens up the space, the silence, and just allows you to have a shared experience, understand each other in that shared experience, and understand each other in a context that you don't know before.
So, had you ever taken a sabbatical with a different girlfriend, not the one that you went away with and who became your wife?
Not really. No. I've taken some solo sabbatical. Like I've done 3 sabbaticals, so 2 of them have been solo, and 1 has been with my girlfriend who became a wife. Apart from small things, small vacations here and there, but not really a full sabbatical.
And you don't have children, I'm imagining.
And now I do. I have a 18-month-old and a 1-month-old.
Oh wow!
And we are planning our next sabbatical with them. So we are like in about 18 more months we'll. It'll be a little different in intent, so it won't be Europe to India by road. But we do want to do something. We are reconstructing something similar by spending 4 months in an orphanage in Cambodia, then 4 months in Spain as a family learning. So we're just trying to construct the same thing again, but in a more stationary way. But 4 months in very different environments outside our zone. That's the same, with the same intent.
Cool.
Yeah.
I was wondering, because it's definitely a lot more complicated with children
No, absolutely, I agree. But the thing is that you start building the muscle, like it gets even more complicated when they'll be in school-going age, and so I think it keeps getting more and more complicated. So I think my going-in assumption is that when I did it solo also, it was complicated to take a leave from my job and do it, but I learned something from that experience, and then we did it as a couple. So you kind of like, I guess, slowly start building that muscle, and accepting that there'll be like inconveniences and discomfort and hardships, but then you realize that there is a lot of upside from the whole experience.
So the thing that I have a hard time wrapping my head around is the long period of time in between the sabbaticals. That, is there, during that time period, do you have periods of time where you do take time for mindful meditation and other things that add to your relationship? Because what it sounds like right now is that you work hard, you have this crazy, busy life for 4 years, and then you take this amazing year off, and it's a completely shifted, different experience, and then you go back to the rut of real life. So tell us a little bit about how your life really plays out.
No, it sounds like that, but I like at a microcosm I try to do the same things. But again, what I feel is that like my tank comes very full after the sabbatical, and then the world slowly it starts to deplete over the 4-year period. But I do have practices, like we do try to meditate at least in the night before we sleep. Like both of us have our independent practices, and we do try to do that. But mornings have become, obviously with like 2 very young kids, it's become extremely variable. And yes, I think what happens is that we have some practices, we have date nights, all that usual stuff, but which keep us going. But I think that sense of complete deep connection and truly understanding each other, like at a very, very sincere-ish, deepest, most like profound level, I think that's what the sabbatical does. So I think you need you can't just be totally off balance in your 4 years, but like you need to have some level of things going, and then, but this year just deepens your whole connection.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I'm a Jewish woman, and I grew up keeping the Sabbath most of my life, and it reminds me a little bit of that, where in the Orthodox tradition, we stop working. We don't work, we don't talk on the phone, we don't go on the computer, and it's a time for reconnecting with family and connecting with friends, and You can't cook, you can't do a lot of things. So it's kind of getting back to nature. And it's an interesting thing. I think a lot of religions have a Sabbath, but they don't all have strict constructs around it. But I think the idea of you don't create anything during that day, that it's a time to rest. And I think we don't rest enough in this world today.
Yeah.
I think more than anything, we need time to regenerate. And I think however you're going to do it, it's a good idea.
Yes, I agree. And what I've seen with my writing is that during the 4 years that I do write after my corporate job and stuff, I write with a lot of discipline. I write 3 days a week, and then I write on the weekend for 4 hours. So I'm very disciplined about my writing, but the workman-like nature and the discipline shows in my writing. And then the leaps of transcendence almost, a touch of divinity, all of that appears during this year off, even when I'm not consciously setting any goals for myself that I have to write every day or this or that, or have any routine at all. Like in this last sabbatical, Europe to India by road, I didn't write at all. Up in the Himalayas in the ashram, I barely wrote a couple of hours here and there. And then I wrote in a huge burst in 4 months living in a village in Portugal. And so it's been very ad hoc, but I've seen that those are the bursts of like almost transcendence that I can't even recognize in my writing right now. Where like when I read my novel now, and like when I look at the reviews and stuff, and the sections that people are like raving about, I don't think I could write them now. That they didn't even come from me in this state at all. And I think that, to your point, that Sabbath or that period of complete slack in which you haven't in which you're still creating. So it's not like you are forcing yourself not to create, but you're not creating with any outcome in mind, any goal in mind, leads to I think some kind of like almost mystical power in your work.
Yeah. No, I think that whole idea of releasing and really accessing something deep within is just so important, and so many people don't know how to do it, and a lot of people never get there.
Yeah.
So that's been a goal of mine as well. I since my divorce, I've done a lot of work in mindfulness and also in being able to access my highest self, by just also allowing play and just that inner child to come out, which I do through painting and sometimes through writing, but painting, dance, improvisation, just totally letting go.
No, I think that's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's something I work with clients on as well. It's just to get back to that state, because so many people are so uptight, and I find especially in the clients that I work with who are over 50, most of them, they've spent a lot of time being guarded around the opposite sex. They are they do really well in their high functioning jobs, which you're describing, being able to be goal-oriented and super analytical and strategic planning. And then when it comes to romance and dating, it's not the same thing. And you have to be able to let go and be playful and be curious and not try to control the outcome. And, and that's where the shift takes place. So that's been a huge part of the work I do.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. So tell us, what were some of the biggest challenges and struggles you had when you were on the road as a couple?
I think we saw that our evolution happened through the course of the journey. I think we just started with not understanding each other that well. So, for instance, I would love physical endurance tests almost, like not sleeping in the night and then hiking for 20 miles or something, and that would be like I thought that my girlfriend was equally interested because she never complained, but then I realized the toll it was taking on her, sort of a thing. So you just started to kind of like understand each other at a more subtle level, and our communication at a more subtle level, and just start to respect things like that. So we went through a lot of like endurances in this way, and then like as I said, living in an ashram separately for a few months, and you start to see that lack of physical contact, how it starts to wear on your relationship. So things like, so there were a lot of these kind of struggles, and I think what I noticed was that as we got deeper and deeper into the sabbatical, our ability to read each other's subtle, non-verbal, intangible signs became very, very high. So I think that's what I would call a deepening connection, where you can just sense the other person and keep them in your mind. Like it just becomes very integrated in your thought process to think of the other person, versus acting and waiting for their reaction.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Like you almost melt into one kind of entity, during the course of this journey outside your zone, because you're going through it together, and it's just you two, and the whole world shrinks to the two of you going through these experiences.
So those sound like the good things, not the challenge. I mean, so the challenges were really in the lack of understanding you had in the beginning.
Yeah.
But then sensing each other over time, that you really got to feel what she needed and she felt what you needed, and you it was much more melded together.
Correct, exactly. But the beginning was full of like I just give you one example, but there were so many such examples where there was a period that I didn't want to write, but she read.
Hello? I am not hearing Karan anymore. Not sure what happened. Well, we'll wait for him to come back on, and in the meantime,
I'm back on. Something happened.
You're good.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so you were saying in the beginning something about. Were you talking about your writing? No, you were talking about something else.
Just as examples of we had these very strong notions of what each of us individually wanted to, accomplish, and there was conflict around that. And I think as you went along, you just went. You just went more into a collective.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. So we have a few minutes left. So tell us the positive impacts were that you became more melded together. You became closer. Any other positives that you felt happened through the sabbatical?
No, I think we covered all of them. Now we have 2 kids, and I felt that we've just been through so much together that really having two very young kids and the small kind of modern frustrations and all that stuff don't mean anything at all. We're just very connected with each other and are able to read each other very subtly.
That's great. So no sweating the small stuff then.
No, exactly, because
Yeah, that's good. I think when you go through any struggle together, if you still stay together and you grow from it, that it really helps you to really put the world into perspective. So if somebody wanted to go on a sabbatical, can you give us some resources as to how they might get started?
Yeah, I have a lot of details on my own website if somebody wants to visit there. But in general, I think I always recommend creation kind of vacations or meditation vacation. And creation vacations means artist retreats. If you could go to an artist retreat together, which is a softer way to start. Then I think of silence vacations, if you will, which is like meditation and all that stuff, which is also very accessible to many people. And then I also think tough physical hiking vacations and stuff. All of these are activities that take you out of your comfortable environments.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I have a ton of ideas on my website as well on this stuff. Yeah.
All right. So I'll give a link to your website on my blog. So in the last minute, can you give a quick telling about your new novel, The Yoga of Max's Discontent?
So The Yoga of Max's Discontent is released by Random House on May 3rd in the US, and it's got fabulous reviews if you ever search it. And it's about an investment banker who becomes a yogi in the Himalayas, and it's both a journey of very, very tremendous inner transformation, but also a very page-turning adventure through hidden India. So if you have any kind of interest in a adventure story which is set in India and through very unfamiliar environments, this is a very, very good read.
Awesome. Well, I've read a lot of books by Indian authors that I've absolutely loved. I find the whole culture to be so fascinating. And wish you good luck in the new release. And thank you for being on the show today.
Oh, thank you, Sandy. Thank you.
So just to give a shout out to where people can find you, I will be posting it, as I said, but just tell us where we can reach you.
My website is www.karanbajaj, KaranBajaj.com. And if you go to .com/yogamax, you can also get some lovely pre-order gifts like a meditation course, a yoga flow course, a nutrition guide, which we're giving along with the book in the same spirit of transformation.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Karan, for being on the show. Best of luck to you. And thank you all for listening today. And I hope you go on your last first date very soon. Have a great day.
Thank you, Sally.